There's no business like show business. This is not technically the song over the credits.
I would say it's in the movie. I would argue it's in the movie.
Oh, yeah. It does start technically once he's in the body bag.
Not technically. I would say it's very deliberate. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no. Did you see the fly?
There's a fly. We have a fly.
I didn't notice.
It's Bob. It's Joe Gideon.
It's the ghost of Joe Gideon.
As a fly.
It's the fly.
Hope no one's listening to this before watching the movie because we're spoiling it right up top.
Right up top. Hi, welcome back.
It's showtime, folks.
Welcome back to another episode of Showgays, the movie musical podcast.
God, it's so big.
Excuse me, a Cinemusical podcast.
Yes.
Maybe in season 5, but we have not officially made the switch yet.
I'm making an internal switch to Cinemusical.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Welcome back to another episode of the show.
Cinema episode of the series.
Molly, do we have any mail?
Oh, we do have mail.
Wow.
We're just so famous. We also have, I have many comments to read from our Cheetah Girls episode.
Oh, yeah?
The girlies felt it in their spirit.
Yeah.
You know, they connected.
We read the one from Robert about Funny Face.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Comments. Should I save the Cheetah Girls one to get us into, to be lumped together Cheetah Girls? Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Nicole, our fave, wrote in to say that she has a couple other recommendations, suggestions, things she is begging us to do for her birthday. Grease 2, we did do that, Nicole. Please go back in the archives. Peter Pan 1960 with Mary Martin slaps. A great Cinemusical. Cinderella 1965. I think you guys did like the Brandy and the 1965 kind of together and the original Broadway cast, right?
We did the Brandy and Adam touched on it.
I touched on the other two versions, but we primarily focused on Brandy and.
But that's a nice. We could do just a 65.
Yeah.
And then
the version I grew up with.
Yeah, and that's Leslie Ann Warren, right?
Yes. Correct.
And she says, pick one and pick another one for my birthday next year. So Nikki is very clear about her intention.
She's like, yeah, book me for the next 2 years, honey.
Yeah, pen me in, honestly.
Sharpie
all right.
in, bitch.
Let's talk Cheetah Girls. Brittany W. Hi, Showgays. There are, I think, 4 exclamation points. So Brittany is obviously one of our hearts. Love the podcast. She's a millennial. She is, based on the timeline of this email for sure. I love the podcast, and it's my go-to for long car rides. When I saw that you were covering Cheetah Girls, I
not a read. Very true.
No, not a read. I know. You know what? My mom listens to it to fall asleep, so I'm not that.
Can't be worse than that.
Yeah, frequently Rita's on the phone with me, and she's like, "You said something so funny, but I did fall asleep, so now I can't remember what it was." When I saw you were
Molly,
covering the Cheetah
Girls, she's never
Girls,
told you were funny. Don't.
Oh my god!
My mother tells me I'm funny all the time, and that's how I know. That's how I know it's true because my mom said it. But we're stepping on the best line. When I saw you were covering the Cheetah Girls, I sat immediately. Yes. As a Black girl who was the perfect age when the first movie came out, this series holds a very special place in my heart. My sister and I did not play around about the Cheetah Girls. I have fond memories of having slumber parties and fighting with friends over who would be Galleria and Chanel. We even had it on karaoke. I have to know, like, who, with you and your sister, like, who got to be who amongst the sisters. That's a really important, that's important to understand the family dynamics, you know?
Yeah.
They were my first concert in the 4th grade, and Hannah Montana was their opening act.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Kind of fun fact, the Cheetah Girls actually paved the way for High School Musical.
Yes.
You need to elaborate more, Brittany. Tell me more about how this is true. I hope you watch the rest of the series because Cheetah Girls 2 is my favorite and I think the best one. It has some iconic songs. Cheetah Girls 3 isn't great, but it had some bangers. And the Cheetah Girls was an actual group that had some bangers. You know, Brittany, am I going to watch 2 more Cheetah Girls movies? That is probably something that I need to be making money through ad revenue on this podcast before I'm truly willing to consider it. But, you know, I love
Molly,
the
what's
requests.
your Cash App handle?
Yeah, what's your...
I don't have Cash App. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, let's start telling our listeners that they have to.
We're just gonna put our Venmo contact.
Yeah, we'll take your requests when you start Venmoing us per request.
Here's $2 to go into Cheetah Girls 2. Hope others follow suit.
It's more dollars than we're currently getting. So
I live in San Diego, so if you want to Venmo me $30 for a single cup of coffee, then we can talk.
Great. We have some comments from YouTube.
More Cheetah Girls commentary.
Because everyone, I think, was pleased with RJ's choice of episode. RJ's pulling it up right now. We have 6 comments. This is crazy.
It's like, do you think that the culture was ready for a Cheetah Girls revisit?
Yeah. Alejandra says, I love the Cheetah Girls so much. Ooh, bestie, who we know, is all the recommendations. And here I am waiting for glitter so I can decide if I can truly support the Ampliverse or not. Oh, I can't wait for the From Justin to Kelly review.
Oh, glitter is a fantastic suggestion.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Princess Yoku says, when Molly played This Is America, I screamed. Adeng7993 says, I'm wondering if Molly was thinking of Alexa Penavega, who played Carmen from Spy Kids. Last I heard, she's a big pro-lifer / essential oils MLM promoter now, like to the point of feeding her family essential oils. IDK if that's who she was thinking of, LOL.
I feel like that's very, very possible. And I do apologize to Adrian, I think is the name of the woman who plays Chi-Chi. Yes, I apologize for besmirching your name.
And another Uwu Bestie comment, they say, okay, Molly, gather Adam within the first minute of the episode, laughing, crying emoji.
I don't even remember what I did.
I'm sure Adam deserved it. I
listened to it, and right off the top, you say something like, well, we want people to listen to the episode, Adam, or something like that. Great. Well, this was fun.
So from one girly vibe movie to another. Girl power.
There are women in this.
There's something you cannot dispute, which is that there are women in this.
There are definitely women in this.
In a very similar vein to how there are women in 9.
Yes.
Well, I mean,
girls, they're related. Yeah.
They're sisters.
They're sisters.
Those 2 films. Molly, it's your challenge this week. Mm-hmm. You didn't write anything, so I got nervous. Okay, great.
I did. I think I have the wrong document though, because I don't see any show notes from you.
Oh, I didn't see it.
I wrote it in the in the one that RJ made. So I have notes.
So there is a parallel universe where you are having the same podcast with 2 different versions of Adam and RJ.
Okay.
Following that Google Doc.
Thank you, Nicole Kidman, and your rabbit hole performance.
Thank you.
Molly, this is your challenge to summarize the plot of Bob Fosse's All That Jazz in a minute or less, and your time starts now.
Broadway director choreographer Joe Gideon struggles to keep up with both his artistic commitments, staging a new show and editing his first film, and his personal life, frequently disappointing his girlfriend Katie, his daughter Michelle, and his ex-wife Audrey. We frequently cuts to scenes of him internally processing his life by talking with a fantasy woman named Angelique. Eventually, his womanizing and drug abuse get the better of him, and he is hospitalized for months with a heart condition. He continues to act recklessly in the hospital, and we see extended dream ballets that reflect on his life, culminating in Bye Bye Life, in which all of the characters cheers his demise, after which Joe meets Angelique. The final shot is of his corpse zipped into a body bag with There's No Business Like Show Business playing over top.
And that was well under a minute. Very good, Molly.
I don't know.
Crazy. It's literally cause effect.
It's like 2 halves of a film, and like one half is like he's trying to do the artistic stuff, and then we have the health event, and the rest of it he's in the hospital, and it's just like more and more dream sequences. So it was a little. I guess I will throw in that at one point he shows his extremely sexed up choreography to the backers of the Broadway show, and they are dismayed that they're not going to necessarily be able to put that up on Broadway, which actually hilarious that. It's a pretty raunchy dance. And then at one point they actually start to take off some of their clothing. And then at that point, one of them goes, well, I see we've lost the family audience. And I say, at this point, we've lost the family audience. So yes. Oh, and also potentially important is that the movie he's editing is about a stand-up comic. And specifically it is a scene where the comic is riffing on the 5 stages of grief that he keeps re-editing. And so then we keep hearing also that portion of the film replayed at other various parts in the film in sort of an artistic reflection on grief and approaching death.
Yes, it is an extremely creative film.
Yes,
that is for sure.
Yes,
that is one thing I can definitely say about this.
I mean, let's say that, like, I think I'm going to say probably one of our top 3 probably movies that we've seen on this podcast was
genuinely.
Cabaret.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, potentially the best. It would depend on how we're measuring and everything, but definitely top 3 is Cabaret, which was directed by Fosse. So we obviously appreciate his work going into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about coming out, Molly? How is it? How is it coming back up?
It's a lot. There's a lot to talk about.
There's a lot to think about. Yeah. Okay. Well, All That Jazz is directed by Bob Fosse, written by Robert Allen Arthur and Bob Fosse, produced by Robert Allen Arthur. He actually, Arthur. His last name is spelled Aurthur. I've never seen that before. Robert Allen Arthur died definitely before the Oscars, because they were awarded posthumously. I'm not sure if he was alive for the premiere, but it stars Roy Schneider as Joe Gideon. Roy Schneider, you may know, is the main like captain guy from I guess not the main one, because the main one is what's his name from Jaws. He's like the main police guy in Jaws. Jessica Lange, having just come off of King Kong, 1970, whatever is King Kong.
Wow.
She is Angelique, the Angel of Death.
Is Jessica Lange a Showgays alum, or is this somehow the first?
This is our first.
Wow, that's crazy.
Because I don't think she's a singer.
Yeah, that's
she hasn't
fair.
really done musicals.
Yeah.
And Ryan King, not a first time.
Not a first time.
Or first. Not a first time alum. She's an alum. Yeah. She plays Kate Jagger, Joe Gideon's current girlfriend. Leland Palmer plays Audrey Paris. Leland Palmer was in the original production of Pippin. Okay. I think is what I read. Cliff Gorman plays Davis Newman, who is the stand-up comic in the film that is being edited. And Ben Vereen plays O'Connor Flood, which I was shocked was even listed in the starring roles, because it's more of like a cameo. It's not a cameo, but it's he has a great last number. Yeah. He's a guy on TV.
Oh, okay. The guy that's on TV that's then like, it's like an MC. Okay.
He's the MC, yeah.
And he was the MC in Pippin.
Yes.
Leading player.
Cinematography is by Giuseppe Rotunno, who worked with Fellini many times. So there's a little 8.5 connection. Edited by Alan Heim, music by Ralph Burns. The production companies. It was originally produced by Columbia Pictures. They, at some point, it went over budget. They were like, we're not giving you any more money. So they brought in 20th Century Fox, who were then also going to distribute it. So it's 20th Century Fox and Columbia Pictures, distributed by 20th Century Fox. Released on December 20th, 1979. Its running time is 123 minutes. Not too bad.
Well,
not the worst, but it's not 3 hours.
We are a famed fan of 90-minute movies.
90 minutes.
We love a 90-minute movie. So it's not 90 minutes. That's one thing we can say. Its budget is $12 million. And its box office was $37.8 million.
Okay. I feel that we need to do another shout out to a cast member, which is John Lithgow, playing the rival director. I don't even remember the guy's name, but he's a director that kind of, it's implied, almost takes over the show when Gideon is in the hospital, but then ends up not taking over the show.
So this is based on an event that happened in Bob Fosse's life. In 1974, he was directing and choreographing Chicago, the original production of Chicago for Broadway. And he was in post-production for a movie called Lenny, which was a biopic about Lenny Bruce, a stand-up comic. Yeah. During this is when he had a heart attack and had open heart surgery. And this is where he started really thinking a lot about death. So this becomes a huge thing for him. This is 1974. Side note, 1972 is when Pippin happens. Okay. I was reading this article because there's a character who's referenced. She's pulled from a story that happened when he was doing Pippin originally in 1972. So then I was reading this article about what happened. And then I was the craziest part of this article was when Pippin did its tryout in New York, in DC at the Kennedy Center. And most of the cast was staying at a Hilton. A couple of them, and Fosse and a couple like the head honchos who were in the production were staying at Watergate when Watergate happened. I was like, what? So like that scene in Forrest Gump when Forrest is like looking out the window and calls in that Watergate happens was
that
like
was
could have
Bob
been.
Fosse. That was actually Bob Fosse. I guess like I had never thought about the fact that there have to have been other people that were guests at the hotel when Watergate happened. But like it had never occurred to me.
It's insane.
Yeah.
The whole story is even crazier because there's people who were saying somebody was like, we saw a woman who was like running around the lobby with a robe on. And then later people are like, oh, it could have been. If you go, it doesn't matter. It's a really wild article. I'll see if I can find it again and I'll just put it in the show notes, but it was very interesting. And the 70s are just it was the Wild West. Yeah. Everything was dirty and filthy and sweaty.
Everyone was smoking.
Polyester was everywhere. I'm so glad I didn't live through it, guys. I gotta be really honest. But the whole article was really about how actually like anti-war kind of the cast was and all that stuff, which was very interesting. Ben Vereen had like gone on a tour of like Vietnam and like was anti-war protests, and it was very interesting. So Audrey Paris, the ex-wife character, is based on Gwen Verdon, who, if you have ever seen the show, it was a miniseries, wasn't it? Fosse Verdon. It's about Bob Fosse and Gwen Verdon and their kind of like tumultuous relationship, but working professional one even after the divorce, which is like depicted here as well. And apparently I didn't watch Fosse Verdon, but this makes me want to watch it even more now. I found out that there are exact sequences from the film that were recreated for Fosse Verdon because she helped work on this film as well. She's not in it, but she did help, I think, with choreography and stuff.
I knew that the film was somehow related to the miniseries because I did share with RJ and Adam a Reddit thread of somebody trying to find this film after watching the miniseries and struggling to do so. So I knew that they were somehow connected, but I also didn't watch it. They were like, we're not representing very well, but none of us watching it. But
yeah,
I wanted to at the time, but like, what was it? It was AMC, wasn't it?
FX.
Or was it FX?
But this was pre Disney Plus
Hulu,
bundle.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you had to get the FX whatever to watch it.
Victoria Porter, the chorus girl who's not that good at dancing, but he ends up like sleeping with.
I also left that out of the summary. Yes, that is the example of womanizing we get in this film. Is him agreeing to cast her because he wants to sleep with her.
Yes, it's the only example of womanizing in this film. I agree with what you're saying. She's based on Jennifer Nairn Smith during Pippin, how he was sleeping with her, but also like treated her like shit apparently during rehearsals. So cool. He was aware enough to know that he needed to depict it on screen, I guess.
He is certainly not in the fact that this is autobiographical. He is not kind to himself in how he's depicted in this film. Yeah.
No, I mean, it's ballsy to kill yourself on screen.
Yeah.
I'll say that. Anne Ryan King is basically playing herself. She was actually sleeping with Bob Fosse at the time of the film, but she still had to audition for the role because she had never been in a film before.
Amazing. And I understand because Anne Ryan King, I mean, that was a real gamble. She's not
real stretch. Yeah.
She's not a talented performer anyway. So you would want her to audition. Yeah.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, it takes a while to get into like dancing in this film. So RJ was like, is this a musical? We were worried for a moment. And then he was like, I wonder why they cast Anne Ryan King. She's not doing anything. And then that's when they do the the at home
with the daughter.
The daughter. Yeah.
I was like, okay.
Gorman won. Okay. So sorry. His name is Cliff Gordon. Gorman. I'm sorry. He played the stand-up comic in the film that's being edited, which I think is called The Stand-Up. He actually won the Tony for the play Lenny that the movie was based on, but he lost out on the role to Dustin Hoffman, who plays Lenny for the film. So this is kind of like Bob Fosse's way of like extending an arm, having him do this role for the movie. Okay, at the Oscars, 9 nominations, 4 wins. We've got Best Picture nomination, Best Director, Best Actor for Roy Scheider. Oh, I'm sorry. It's not Schneider. It's Scheider. Best Screenplay, written directly for the screen, which is a category, what that was called at one point. Best Art Direction, it won. Best Cinematography nomination. Best Costume Design won. Best Film Editing and Best Original Song Score, and its adaptation or adaptation score was also a win. So,
wait, it got an
well.
original score and an adaptation score Oscar?
Best original song score and its adaptation or adaptation score.
That's one category.
That's one category.
Original song and its adaptation.
Original song score and its adaptation or adaptation score.
Couldn't you just call it adaptation?
I don't know.
Could you just say best score?
Could you just say score?
Best score.
Best score. Yeah.
John Lithgow's character is based on Michael Bennett, who famously directed the original production of Dreamgirls in the 80s. They had a long-standing rivalry. Okay. And Jonesy Hecht, who is the older producer in that scene where he's like offering the directorial position, was supposed to be Hal Prince. And then Paul, the guy who makes the music, who plays the piano for that one song. Yeah. He's supposed to be Stephen Schwartz because Bob Fosse did not like Stephen Schwartz during Pippin. Apparently, Bob Fosse's notes, he gave a lot of notes to Roy Scheider. Everyone. Well, sure.
Yeah. But based on what he was showing.
Specifically Roy Scheider, since he was basically living his life.
Yeah.
One of his notes was he taught him how to cough correctly.
Oh my God.
Which is a little minutia in my opinion.
Yeah.
And also in order to help him understand what it felt like to have a heart attack, he was like explaining that it feels like a lot of weight is pushing on your chest. And so in the shots where there are close-ups of Roy Scheider in pain while he's experiencing the heart attack, behind the camera, the first AD is kneeling on his chest with his full body weight.
We don't have to do. People can act.
People can act. People can act. To quote Laurence Olivier, people can act. People can act. And the drug he takes in the morning, Dexedrine, they cut to a shot of him taking these pills a bunch. It's a powerful amphetamine, primarily prescribed for ADHD and narcolepsy. So
I did look it up. Yeah.
So I
think it's Dexedrine. Sorry.
It helps you focus. It's not.
It gets you going.
I think a stimulant amps you up. If you have ADHD, it helps you to focus your brain. If you don't have ADHD, I think it just sort of like, energizes you in whatever direction, which is why it's dangerous to use stimulants if you do not actually have ADHD. But so I don't know if the implication is supposed to be that he has ADHD or that he is abusing the drug. It's not clear.
Well, yeah.
He definitely has a prescription for it, but also he's a famous director. So,
and it's like, if you want me to edit a movie and direct choreograph a full Broadway musical, you're going to give me this.
I mean, I definitely think that the film is communicating that he is burning the candle at both ends.
Yes.
Oh, for sure.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, the Visine alone to his eye, like direct nozzle to eyeball.
Oh, yeah. There are really crazy.
We saw open heart surgery happen. They literally opened him up and we saw.
He is a filmmaker that is very evocative and knows how to visually tell a story for sure.
Which is interesting.
A pro that I can say about this movie.
It is interesting, that because I think sometimes we'll see. I mean, community theater, local theater. We've seen choreographer directors not really nail the storytelling of a show that we would be watching. Let's say, but it does seem like he is able to the emotions and what he's trying to evoke in his choreography. It does kind of translate in the visual storytelling in a movie of even just visual pictures. Because I do think sometimes it's hard to translate everything else besides just the the moving pictures of the body.
I mean, this movie, as we said, does not depict Fosse well. And part of me wants to not praise it too much because I don't like this man, but it is remarkable how talented he is and how multi-talented he was of the choreography, the directing, and then being able to apply that to film and the composing of the visual imagery in a way that it's not something you can do in theater. And so being able to also do it in this other format, it's yet another skill that he was able to have. That's really impressive.
Yeah.
Okay. I just didn't know you were let's get this. So.
I believe he's taking a work call.
We're rudderless without Adam. I have no idea what to do next.
So the movie...
it did dance good. It was fun to dance.
Well, I think we got to address the accessibility of it all. We couldn't find this movie. It was not streaming anywhere.
I mean, I joked up top that we were spoiling it and hopefully people had seen it, but you probably haven't because there's no way to watch it.
It was so hard to watch.
We Molly found yeah, go ahead.
Internet Archive?
You found it. I texted you saying I can't find this movie, and then you texted me back with the Internet Archive. Or Adam texted back.
Adam did text back. Yeah. It was called Internet Archive.
Okay, sorry, I was gone for a moment because I realized my mom was the one who asked us to watch this movie.
Oh.
So I have my mother on the phone.
Live on the air?
Live on the air. You can't hear her, but Molly is thrilled to hear you.
Absolutely.
I'm thrilled as well.
Mom, do you have, I know you probably haven't watched All That Jazz in years. As we found out, it is impossible to find online. There is a Criterion Collection version of it, but we had to go to like a deep web website, basically. So,
oh my gosh, really?
Yeah. So I wanted to know if there's anything you remember from the film that led you to request us watch it, other than the fact that you remember that you liked it back in the 70s.
It was Bob Fosse. And he was pretty exciting to watch, also in the theater, every single seat was filled when we went to see the movie. And it was at Scottsdale Theater, which doesn't mean anything to you. I understand that. But it probably had at least 300 seats, if not more.
Wow.
And every single seat was taken. In fact, I was married to Chris at the time, and we were like, I don't know, 5 rows from the front. And you know how much I don't like sitting down that far. But we had to sit down that far because we wanted to watch the movie. Mm-hmm. And it was it was fun to watch, but we had this crazy lady sitting behind us who kept talking to her husband because she didn't understand the movie, and he kept trying to explain it to her. And I would turn around and give him a dirty look, like, shut up. And Chris finally got so pissed, he turned around and said, shut the fuck up. And the whole theater heard it. And the people around us, some of them said, oh my God, thank you. That was hilarious. I'll never forget it. Oh my gosh. But it was just really, it was a movie that was pretty evocative.
Yeah.
It was so different. And it had been, it was the commercials for it, because that's all we got to see at the time on television, just made it so exciting that we said, oh my God, we have to go see this movie.
Yeah. And in that lady's defense behind you, it is not a linear story. It is a little confusing. So I'll give the lady a benefit of the doubt.
It is. I don't think I've seen it since. And when did that come out?
79.
I was going to say 77, 79.
Yep.
Wow. God, that was a long time.
Do you remember that in the movie that he keeps having these scenes with a woman who's wearing all white? She's like the angel of death.
Yes.
That's Jessica Lange.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Like right after she had just done King Kong.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that funny?
What a juxtaposition that is.
Yeah. Also, John Lithgow's in the movie. It'll be, if you go back and watch it, it's wild because there's a few people that's like, oh.
You'd have to tell me how to find it.
Oh, Mom, I would tell you to just buy it. I'd tell you to just find it online and purchase
DVDs.
it. Because sending you into Internet Archives is not the ideal way to watch this film. I'll tell you that.
Okay. All right.
Well, thank you for taking my call.
What did you guys like it?
I guess you'll have to listen to the episode to find out, Mom.
We're about to do it right now.
That's a pretty subjective question for you all.
That's a good question. We have not answered that question yet. You can't hear Molly because she's only in my ears currently. So I'll let just RJ answer the question. Did we like All That Jazz?
Like is a It's a complex word.
But you'll have to tune in for the full episode to know all of our thoughts, Mom.
Okay, I will have to do that.
Okay. Also, Mom, how are you feeling? You just got COVID like a few days ago.
I know. I'm feeling great because I tested negative.
Good.
So, yeah. So I feel great.
No more chills.
No, the chills, the fever, it was awful. But I'm over it. So yay.
Good. Great.
I'm sick of having it. Well, that was number 4, I think. Sick of it.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to hear you're doing well. Thank you for being a live consultant on the pod.
Okay.
Your check is in the mail.
Oh, thank you so much.
Don't worry.
Looking forward to cashing it.
Okay, I love you.
Love you too.
Bye. There you go.
I thought you were just going to say thank you for being alive because she just had COVID.
Well, and
both and yeah.
both and.
All right, should we return to the question of whether or not we liked the movie?
Oof.
Yeah, because we can just let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
Yeah.
As a representative of women.
Okay.
Women everywhere. Molly.
Oh, I thought that was the way you were introducing yourself.
I thought I was going to start it first, and then I was
what
like,
was
no,
the thing
I want
with the commenter said? I gathered you. I need to gather Adam in this moment. Okay.
Oh,
yeah, you gathered me. What did you like it? Did you like all that jazz?
What was your reaction like during it? And then after the fact, letting it sink in.
I think that there's never been a movie that has more separated different components of a film for me.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So I loved the way that Fosse puts visuals together.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I famously love a dream sequence musical number, and this was chock full of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This might be my favorite way dance has been depicted in a movie musical. Really cool work.
Compelling choreography put to film.
Yeah,
totally.
And I was stunned by the final moments of the film. I really couldn't. I did not think he was going to kill himself off.
Yeah.
I, however, have no sympathy or empathy for this character. I don't.
Yeah.
I
don't know if you're supposed to, though.
I don't
That's
think
what's crazy.
I appreciate that he is being self-critical, obviously. I feel it as a film of him asking himself why he is so incapable of forming close relationships with other human beings.
Yeah.
And I do think it's interesting. I feel like maybe we've talked about this before, but artists are people who are supposed to have a deep understanding of life and of people.
Mm-hmm.
And yet sometimes there are really brilliant artists who can't really connect with their fellow human beings really very well on a personal level. And that's a really interesting sort of paradox.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But this is not a problem that I ever have had or will have. And I mean, obviously, there have been people in my life who I haven't clicked with or whatever, but a fundamental inability to love people or treating my romantic partners
your daughter,
as disposable
is
just not something that I have ever faced. And at this point, I feel pretty confident I'm not going to face in my life. So I just don't know what I get out of watching his journey with it. Nor does he really grow. It's critical.
Yeah.
It's clearly this is a bad thing about me, but he doesn't really learn what to do about it over the course of the film. He just expresses regret.
Yeah. RJ, did you think it was good? What did you think?
I agree that I think the feet of the movie, F-E-A-T, not his feet.
Those dancing feet,
those tapping toes. I thought that, yes, the movie itself was such a feat, a masterpiece in a way of no one else can. I can't think of anyone else that could do.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like an opus.
It feels like an opus. It feels like an auteur point of view coming to life. And yeah, I mean just truly like very compelling scenes, very compelling visuals. There were a lot of moments where it was like, I feel like I'm watching a play, which I love the movies that give us that feeling. Those are like some of my favorite scenes that we've done in the movie or in the musical podcast. But I think like it was one of those things of like, you understand what's happening. You understand what the story is going to be. You see him, you see what he's doing, his routine, self-destructive habits will one day catch up to him. And the fact that there's like this visual fantasy of like, there's literally an angel of death that he keeps like towing the line with, that I'm like, okay, we're playing with the metaphors, blah, blah, blah. So the entire time I was just kind of expecting like, okay, will he die at the end or not? Like there was a moment, I think like before just like to show like how terrible he is. Like he's like yelling at Victoria in the rehearsal. That I just looked at Adam and was like, so I mean he can drop dead right now, and I think I'd be ready. Like I'm ready to get to part 2 now.
It is
like
telegraphed early that he is not long for this.
He's not long for this role.
It's so interesting, RJ, that you had that as a central dramatic question, which makes so much sense. But for some reason in my head, because I knew it was semi-autobiographical, it was like him actually dying was off the table, because I know that Fosse didn't die from this event. Yeah, totally. But I don't know why, when like so many other things about a fictionalized version of your life could be changed, that could also be changed. It just like never occurred to me that he would actually die.
I think it is because it's so evocative that you're like, I feel like I am watching his life. Like I'm watching Fosse. I'm watching Fosse right now go through this, which I think is like shows his skill in like really crafting what you want to see and believe while you're watching. I mean, like that's what I felt about Cabaret, like just chills, at some of those scenes. But yeah, there was a point where, not that I was like tired of seeing him like be, berate other people and like just like not get in his own way the entire time, but there was a moment of like, I'm curious, I'm ready to see it blow up. Like I'm ready to get to the blow up because I know it was going to be good. I did not expect a full disco number. I will admit, I did not expect a gift to me
and a real follow for Molly.
So yeah, but all that to say, did I like it? I wouldn't watch it again.
No.
Yeah, totally.
But I don't think it's a movie you're supposed to watch again. Yeah.
I appreciate having watched it to like understand like, oh, this is possible in movies. Like you could, because the entire time I was like, oh, I can see, like when we saw 9, or we didn't see 8.5, but I was like, okay, this feels more like a realized version of maybe what Fellini was trying to do. You know what I mean?
I think that you should not make that statement about Fellini. I think people are going to come for you on the internet.
Well, I think if anything, it would be, this is what 9 wishes it was. Yeah. Whereas like 8.5 is obviously the realized version of what Fellini made. Right. That's someone trying to adapt Fellini's work into another thing.
Yeah. Right.
So you're already taking it at a remove. I think it's interesting to have an autobiographical piece put to film because, I mean, it's such a singular vision, and especially from artists who already are such visionaries that it really amps it up to the next level, that they feel like they can like talk about what they want to talk about. I wish that they wouldn't just be like, women suck? Yeah, I do wish that was.
Oh, you feel like that was the message?
I think you just couldn't see past it. Just the way
I don't think the message is that women suck. I think what's crazy. He has done the first part of like, here's the reflection on my life. Here's like what I see about myself. Yeah. But he hasn't done the next step of being like, and I want to change. Like he's just like, this is just who
here's
I am.
what I'm going to do about it. Which is maybe why he decided the character has to die, because otherwise you'd have to have a dramatic turn, and he doesn't know what that should be. So
he's like, well, and he failed.
Yeah. So because I feel fundamentally that all of the women in this are like smarter and better than him. And like, and he knows that on some level.
I think he knows that.
Yeah.
But I think he also knows that he does not value them the way they deserve to be valued.
Yeah.
I mean, even the character...
I think it is interesting. I think it is interesting that the last thing that sets him off in his final, like, is the review from the critic that's a woman. The one woman who doesn't love him is the one that sends him into like death, basically.
Interesting.
I want to say, RJ, to your point about not watching it
Molly
again.
did raise her hand also.
Yeah, sorry.
I agree. I think it is. I would tell other people that it is a good film, but I would not watch it again.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is there are a lot of good films that you wouldn't necessarily want to subject yourself to multiple times.
Totally.
Here's a question that I have though, because polyamory is having a moment. To what extent?
Oh, Molly.
Molly.
Okay.
Congratulations,
Well,
Molly. Thrilled for you. Ethan.
There's room for everyone. Let's just say that.
I am monogamous, but I am curious watching this film through the lens of living in a time where people are discussing types of polyamory a lot. I feel very much so like I feel like the character's fundamental issue is this ability to connect with women, and like the drug use and stuff like that is kind of, I think, a symptom of that. It feels like the film is saying that like the women are like the main thing. And I'm curious your thoughts on like, to what extent is it potentially that like he is just a polyamorous person and like isn't going to be satisfied with one partner as some people are, and to what extent is he doing it? I don't think that's the majority of it, but like I feel like he is doing this to keep people at arm's length. Like I feel like he kind of intentionally hurts, especially Katie, his like current girlfriend. Yes. He almost does it to hurt her, to keep her from being too close to him. And but then fights back if she gets too far, because like he grills her about like
she cheats on him.
Yeah, you went on a date.
She has sex while he's in the hospital, and he gets mad about it.
And it's very clear that it's not a polyamorous relationship. Also, in that like my understanding is that like a really fundamental part of that is like you have to have the same boundaries for each partner. Like, you can't have a relationship where like one person's allowed to sleep with other people and the other person's not allowed. You could have one where the other person happens to not be interested in sleeping with other people, right? But like you don't set boundaries of like you're allowed and the other person's not allowed, right? You want to have the same rules. But I feel like it could be that some of it is like a dysfunction of like living in a society that has too rigid of rules about relationships for him. But I wonder if he would be in any healthier of a relationship if polyamory were like a model that he was able to follow.
I don't know. It just feels like it's him seeking intimacy because he doesn't know what intimacy is supposed to solve for him. Like it's like he keeps seeking seeking it, but it's like, is this supposed to make me feel better at the end? Is this what's missing? But it doesn't. It's just like a drug for him.
I disagree completely.
Whoa.
With me or with the whole?
With you.
Oh.
I think there is one scene that is the full tell of his character. Okay. It is the scene where you flash back to when he worked in burlesque as a kid, and the girls
teased
him, and then he got laughed at. And ever since then, he is like, his fear, I guess, or like the reason he can't let women in is that he's worried that I think it's also interesting that it's three women who do it to him. In the final moments, it's three women, one of them being his daughter, which is almost even weirder, that are like the defining women of his life. Right. But he doesn't trust that they won't betray him or cause him to fall on his own face. Yeah.
And there's like that famous quote about like women's greatest fear is that men will kill them and men's greatest fear is that women will laugh at them. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I will say like, I don't think they sexualize the daughter. It's like, it is a little weird that it's like, there's the trios and stuff, but I think the failure with the daughter is more of like, I have a dysfunctional relationship with women. So how am I supposed to like mentor this woman into being in the world? Right. But I actually really like the scene in the ballet in the like when they're dancing together. Where he's like working choreography. I really like that scene. Yeah. And that she is like, she wants to be there because that's quality time that she's actually spending with him. And also like, why don't you get married again? Like, why don't you just leave this behind and like be normal? The way all the women feel like they have to mentor him in order to like have him. They have to do all the emotional labor for him because he cannot do it himself. Okay. I want to talk about what I thought about this movie because we've just skipped right over me. Okay. It's you're leading the podcast, Diva. I know, but we went on this tangent about him and I want to get back to me. Okay. Just like Joe. Just like Joe. I need you to read about me. Okay. So I think it is a good film and probably one of the best movies we have watched simply in terms of
What you can do in a movie. Achievement in a movie.
Artistic achievement.
Yeah.
Like it is a fully realized vision. There is not a moment of this movie where I was like, oh, that feels false or forced or anything. Like it's so clearly got a point of view.
Even the small moments of like the dancers leaving and being like, I thought I would have to sleep with him. It was like, well, I did, and I didn't even get the part. You know, like even small things like that in the world because of what he's done.
I think it is really a dissemination of himself, like on screen, which is like extremely, I don't want to say necessarily vulnerable, because it almost seems like so easy for him that I don't know. Maybe it was really difficult to put this on screen. I don't know. He's a larger than life character in real life and in this film. So it's a lot. Would I ever watch this again? Literally never. I did not. And maybe I will acknowledge that maybe I am the problem, because I feel the need that I have to have a main character that I root for.
Yeah.
And at no point could I root for him. There was one, I already talked about the scene with the daughter, but there's like one, what was the other scene where I was like, this is the first scene that I've like really liked in this movie. God, now I'm forgetting. I liked the Katie Michelle dance number.
Yes, it was that. And
was it the ex-wife rehearsing the choreography while he talked to her? You
also like listen when they did the table read and like everyone was laughing, but you just hear silence and like his Foley.
Yes, there's so much that I like, just again, like there were so many choices that while it was happening, I was like, wow, this is like incredibly brilliant. Like the way he gets around knowing whether or not the musical itself is good, like you keep removing the audio from it, so you never know if the songs are good. Like right, like good, they do the read through of the script, and it becomes like it's just them reacting, because you're gonna ruin it. The audience is gonna be like, well, that's not really the funniest joke I've ever heard. So like it's easier to just take it out. Like and works.
That he is so like fixated on other people's reactions to his art. He kind of loses the art for the reactions.
There in like so many of those where through the whole movie, I was like, that is the smartest decision you could have made. Like while I was watching it, I was just so focused on like, this is such a directorial masterpiece.
Yeah.
But again, I really wanted to kill myself watching this movie. I did not have.
I wanted to kill him if he wasn't going to do it.
I was glad. Listen, when we got to the final like ballet sequences and like it was all dreams and they were dancing. I was like, well, this is fun. We got a Follies number. I was not expecting. So
once we got to the hospital, it was really cool to be like, wow, what's truth, what's not. When he went missing. And you didn't know, okay, you didn't know if he actually did run away. Is this a real hallway? Is
There's
this a fake
part
hallway?
where they like start having surgery on him and he's fully conscious. And I was like flipping out, like what is real?
Yes. Yeah. I think that's really cool. The amount of like what's real, what's not. I think like the incredible way he keeps jumping into these conversations with the angel of death that you like. I think it would have been at the end of the film that I would have realized that she was the angel of death, because I only knew because you had said, oh, she's playing the angel of death, because you were looking at
I was looking at the name of the character.
So I didn't even interpret it. I like saw the Wikipedia before we started recording, but when I was watching it, I wasn't thinking of it that way. I felt like Angelique was like his perfect woman that he could never actually meet or like attain in the real world. And that it was almost like he made a choice at the end to die because he was like, the fantasy of this is better than the reality of anything I'm going to get in my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'd buy that.
I'd buy that too.
Maybe it was the scene where he gets caught in the hospital, like when he went missing, and he just started singing and laughing with the custodian.
I liked that too, but I don't think that was it. I think
it was the Katie
Michelle dance
number.
Because it was the most like joy that the movie has.
It reminded me of the Star is Born, where she like talks about like, oh, this is what I did on set today, and she like, different like it's like, oh, they're playing. You're seeing like this what could be, with a relationship.
It's a bummer film. It's like a real downer.
I wanted more jazz.
I wanted more jazz. I didn't need more jazz.
By the title.
Yeah, they were going to give me all of the jazz.
Here's a question.
I only felt like I got some of the jazz.
It's called All That Jazz, which is obviously a Chicago reference. We know now that it's based on his time choreographing Chicago. What number in Chicago is this airline number based on? Because maybe I was watching a different version, but I don't feel like it ever gets that raunchy.
Only one I can think of is the Murderesses.
But that is not... This is really just like how
that reminded me of more of a number from
Pippin.
Yeah, it did make me think of Pippin.
Yeah.
I wonder if they were also drawing from that. Here's a question that I think it's kind of.
I think it's kind of all of it. I think it's like all enmeshed together.
I have a question about your experience of watching this sexy dance number.
Yeah.
I was masturbating.
Yeah, we were hard the entire time.
Is that what your question was?
No.
I feel that as a person who has grown up in the theater, where I feel like a message that you get a lot is like, hey, you're going to be around people's bodies. Sometimes you got to like quick change. Sometimes you got to be like close to each other on stage, but like to desexualize all of that, because like we're here to work. This is professional.
Yes. It's artistic.
It doesn't mean anything. It's just artistic. I like cannot watch sexy dance scenes because I'm like, they're just people getting a paycheck. Like I can't, I've like, my brain has removed the eroticism from any dance sequence because of that background. And I wonder if you guys have the same sort of feeling.
Like sexy dance specifically. Like
this was like we're Broadway dancers, but we're doing an erotic dance. I just like cannot, I can only see it intellectually. Like it doesn't titillate me in any way.
It does not titillate me in any way. I am not turned on. I am like, yes, I understand like academically what I'm supposed to, like what they're trying to kind of normal theater goer maybe experiencing. But for those of us in the ivory tower, no, I've never, because it's like Contact and Rent is the same thing. Like there's a bunch of musicals that do like a sexy
simulated
number.
Yes, I will say like my first show in college was Pippin, when our school did Pippin, and we had to do what is it? It's not Contact, whatever that is called.
Fields and Flower, whatever.
I do remember the Pippin number, and I think I remember it because like you and some of our other friends were in it, and so I remember feeling a little uncomfortable because I was like, well, now I know these people who are doing this, and that feels a little awkward. But otherwise, again, like I was shocked when her top came off. I was like, wow, okay, we're really going for another layer of this, and I was expecting.
And she was on that scaffolding, just draped. Boobs hanging.
And look, she looked fantastic. So, like, congrats.
You've got a lot of great 70s breasts in here.
Great.
Not an ounce of silicone anywhere in this film.
Natural sets. Yeah.
But if only Nan could have heard me.
The way RJ talks about breasts, Molly.
Yeah, I feel really connected to it and really seen the way that RJ talks about breasts.
Sorry. Okay.
Did you guys watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Did you see the ones where they're undercover and the police captain who's gay is trying to pretend that he's straight?
Oh yes.
He's talking about like her heavy breasts. He's just talking about how heavy they are because he thinks that's what's sexy.
We talked about this on Showgays.
It's the greatest joke of all time. I'm sorry, I have to reference it.
Yeah.
Oh shoot! What was I going to say now?
I was distracted by the beauty.
Oh, if only Nan had been able to hear me when she was on the phone, I would really have loved to hear her memory of the reaction of a 300-person theater when that scene happened.
Yeah.
Oh, when the boobs popped out.
Came out.
It was funny because the naming of like where they're from or whatever.
Yeah.
My gay lens just kept being like, oh, this is like, oh, it's Steamworks. Like this is like a gay sauna type experience where like they're all strangers, right?
They really try. Let me say, they were like, we have a boy girl, we have a girl, we have a boy boy, and then so I was like, good for you.
I mean, it was very clear.
Wait,
he had no idea what lesbian sex was because they were just like caressing each other. I was like, okay, girls.
They were hugging.
Yeah.
When was the Village People movie released?
They were renting a U-Haul together. That was their act of intimacy.
They were building
Can't Stop the Music. I want to point out Can't Stop the Music came out in 1980, a year after this film, and was more afraid of depicting homosexuality than Bob Fosse was. Can we also talk, though, in the vein of the couplings in there? He at one point asks, so Anne Reinking calls up a guy. She's like, I got offered to go on tour, and he's like, okay, then go. And then she like calls up a guy from her dance class and is like, oh, okay, actually, I will go to dinner with you. And this very like, I'm gonna get back at you moment. And then he asks her if he's gay or straight, and she says, what do you mean? And then he says, is he looking to get laid, or is he looking for Mr. Right? And I was like, were those words like new at the time, or is she like just continuing to play into the thing? Like, because the second thing he said was actually less straightforward than the first thing he said. So like, I don't understand what this line is supposed to communicate.
Yeah, I thought she was playing along, but
I thought she was more asking like what
Why
do
would
you
it
mean?
matter?
Like, why does it
are
matter?
you asking was
Yeah.
more what she, okay. Yeah. I
that's
don't know.
what I thought it was.
I don't know that I know like when the word gay became mainstream, like default term for homosexual
when
man.
did we stop saying dandy?
When did we stop saying dandy? Bring it back. That's what I'm trying to
dandy
say.
back.
Doesn't the stand-up call him the F word at one point later in the film? He says he's a faggot, doesn't he?
He does. He says that to the Fosse character. It's a very odd part of
Joe.
the film.
Well, because he's not there, right?
I think he is.
I think he is in the hospital.
Because the real film
out.
was Dustin Hoffman playing Lenny Bruce. So I assume that this guy is the Dustin Hoffman stand. I think it's the actor who is in his film is coming to visit him in the hospital. That's what I thought. But I mean, again, everything in the hospital is a little like
everything's a little
how
weird.
real is any of this? So it's possible that it's just made up. But I interpreted it as he was visiting.
He was getting a massage.
Yeah.
But then it was a real nurse. So I was like, wait.
Well, I liked when he was being wheeled to the OR and he looks at the nurses and they're nurses
and
then
they
he
turn
looks
into
back
Katie
and they turn into Katie and Audrey. And he says like something about
been better to
I should
you.
have been better. I'm sorry for how bad I was to you and I'm sorry how bad I will be to you.
Yeah, something like that. The past and the future.
So I guess, I don't know. I guess that we're supposed to understand that like one possible theory he's playing out in his head is like, I'm really bad to all my lovers because secretly I'm not even attracted to them. I think he's trying on theories.
You're not supposed, I would say, okay, so the central question is like, I don't think he learns a lesson, right? Like that's
he tries, but he doesn't.
He tries, but it's too late already.
Yeah.
Does his character change? And is that why he dies? Because he can't change?
I think, yes, he dies because he can't change.
Huh. Okay. Great. I mean, this is definitely also, I was gonna say too, the most like postmodern film we've ever seen. Like this is like throw away the rule book of like what movies are supposed to be because we're just like the fact that it felt like almost kind of like, I guess, 2 movies, but also like kind of 4. Cause like the opening sequence, which is just a chorus line. It's an open cattle call. That went on for so long that it felt like its own movie to some extent.
That I thought it was like, it's going to be a dance movie. Like we are about to see.
And then it's not that at all.
And then all of a sudden you're like getting
it's just about him being like, which of these girls are the hottest? It has nothing to do with like who's the best dancer at St. Bernadette's. Sorry.
I'm going to amend my answer a little bit. Sorry to what I said before. I think either the point of the movie is he can't change, so he has to die. Or what I said before about Angelique as the fantasy woman. The change, quote unquote, is he's making a decision. Can I rectify my life and live a real life? Or do I need to just give into the fantasy? And is that going to be better than anything that I could ever do to turn my life around? And then his answer is to give into the fantasy. It's not a change as much as making a choice, but that's a kind of change, is to make a choice. Yeah.
So there could have been a way, like if he fought more at the end, like, do you think he willed himself to not fight anymore? Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that that's how like life really works. Obviously, sometimes you just physically give out, but like, I think usually often in movies, a death is somewhat metaphorical, or like there is some sort of choice involved in it. And so I think that there was some giving in and acceptance. And I think we see that in the disco number at the end, that it is, I wrote it as like they cheers to his demise, but like it's a bittersweet, it's like everybody's coming to accept it and move on, and he's going to accept it kind of a number. And it's like the actual melody is like overly cheerful in a way that's kind of dissonant and jarring. But also like he goes up to his ex-wife and like touches her on the cheek while she has like tears running down her face. Right. So it's like, I don't want you to go, but I know you have to kind of a feel, not like, not they're cheersing his demise, like, woohoo, this guy sucks, I'm so glad he's dead. That might be how we were feeling, but the characters in the movie were not feeling that way. So I think that is meant to show us that like the death is a little bit like he has come to terms with his own death at the point that he dies.
Yeah.
I guess also the fact that this is about a singular point in his life that he's looking back on. I wonder if he did make personal changes after that incident where he was like, maybe this is a reflection of like the person I was at that time. If I had died, here's how everyone would have reacted because I was such a shit to everybody else, but I've made some changes and blah, blah, blah. Cause I think one of the things I saw was like, he made a joke, I think in the press for this movie or something like that. Like they were like, they noticed that he like still smoked a bunch and they were like, you made this movie about how like you died.
The doctor was smoking.
The doctor coughing while he's telling him how sick he is was the funniest part of this film. But they were like, it's so interesting, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, oh no, I've cut way back. I'm down to 5 packs a day now. Like, ha ha ha. But I do wonder if there was like some recognition of himself at that point. And this is like, he's looking at that specific point.
Yeah.
And I just don't know enough about Fosse's life to know if he had made things better with certain people or anything.
Yeah. I mean, a hopeful interpretation is that he metaphorically killed himself of this. He killed off the version of him he was then, and then he came out of it a better person. Right.
Yeah.
And possibly that's how Fosse feels that he, but I don't have any particular insight on his personal life to say if that's true or
totally.
not. Yeah.
I also think this is like super endemic of like this type of man. We have talked ad nauseum about the man genius.
The man genius.
But that's also Peter Pan. And he won't ever grow up. I mean, he's definitely that. Yeah. So that's something for sure. That's in one of the critic things I pulled. They like talked about how it's a Peter Pan syndrome. It's exhausting.
It is.
Should we listen to a damn song?
So all these songs are songs from before this movie. They're not original to this piece.
To which Adam and I were like, is our idea of a movie musical too narrow?
Well, okay, by the time we got to the end of the movie, I was like, this is a movie musical. But there really are no numbers kind of until the back half of the film.
Yeah.
The front half has the audition sequence, which is just them dancing. It's not, they're not singing during it. And then there's the rehearsals, which are more diegetic.
Yeah.
But like there was, and we've done diegetic stuff before, so that's fine.
It's all diegetic in the first half, right?
But I kept being like, this is AFI's, American Film Institute's 14th greatest movie musical of all time.
But
so I was like, what? And then we got to the back half.
I think we've learned that there are many film people who will just call anything that has music more than one song in it a movie musical, and that we can't use that as a guide. Yeah,
we need to create our own taxonomy, really. That's what we need to do. What song shall we bop along to today?
Do we want to listen to the Michelle Katie duo one? Do we want to just cut right to the dream sequences? Okay.
We'll do Michelle and Kate's song, Everything Old is New Again.
When trumpets were mellow, everyone only had one fellow. No need to remember when, 'cause everything old is new again. I said everything old is new again. And Sinatra, Long Island, Jazz Age parties. Wait up, let me have some.
I liked this number. I think this is also one of the first movie musicals in a while that we should go relationship by relationship.
Wow, bold to propose a structure for the show an hour and 10 minutes in.
Yeah, you're welcome. So let's start with Michelle. She is probably the least screen time.
Yeah. So Joe to Michelle, Joe to Audrey, Joe to Katie.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah.
Sure.
Joe to Michelle. And listen, I'll speak first as a child of divorced parents. Divorce parents. And also had a Peter Pan syndrome father. It's exhausting. And I do think he's very warm to her. I was worried that I didn't know what it was going to be.
Yeah, I was scared because it was very cold in the beginning, right? Where it's like, sorry, I have to work, even though I promised we were going to do something.
I mean, she's a real Gen X character in that regard. She's completely overlooked. But after the scene in the dance studio, I felt like there was real warmth and genuine connection there. And so I was less, it's actually the only part of his character that I was like, this is the only thing I like about you is that I don't think you're the great, like, listen, you're not getting the best dad award, but you could tell he loved her.
Yeah.
Even if it was in his own
and
way.
There was no spite. Like there's no like, because of you is the reason why I'm having a hard time with my career.
Well, no, he's a man, so he didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
And,
he's
this
not held
like,
back for having a child. Yeah.
Of course, this movie comes out like a few years after Kramer versus Kramer, which is its own kind of story of divorced parents and stuff like that. And it was nice that this movie didn't go down that road of like having them be at odds and like fighting. Like they don't fight in him and Audrey don't fight in this movie, which is, I mean, a feat really, but
I wonder if that's then part of Bob Fosse's, like, this is his way of kind of,
because his actual daughter is in this movie.
Oh, really?
Nicole Fosse. She has a scene. There's a scene where they're by a vending machine and there's a dancer that's stretching and he asks her, can you do that somewhere else? And she walks away. That's his daughter. And then his daughter, her name is Nicole Fosse. She was 16, I guess, when this movie came out. She ends up being in the Chorus Line film and she plays Christine, I think is her name. She's the one who can't sing. That's like with the guy.
The one with the guy.
Yeah.
They don't fight. It's never really about her. There is like
he doesn't fight in this movie.
Yeah.
There are no arguments in this film.
I mean, I will say they don't fight. There's a scene where he and the ex-wife have a conversation where she kind of dresses him down. So it's also not like they're on good terms,
but they're able to work.
They're able to co-parent in a pretty mature way, especially for the 70s where there wasn't a lot of model for that.
Right. They were creating the model.
They were creating the model at the time. But yeah, it seems like they're doing an okay job of Michelle is neglected for time, but that her parents are not creating toxic environment for her. And that when he is with her is good at being present with her. It's just, he's not able to give her very much time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not like, I want them to get back together. It's not, I can't be in the same room with them. Like like the model is very mature, but she's also like, well, she acknowledges that there are two separate people and like two like that stand on their own, and like her kind of being like, you should get married, you should start dating, you should like find someone to settle down is a genuine.
She wants a little sibling.
Yeah, it's almost like it kind of, she's the representation of like, this is the quote unquote real life. This is it can just be this and it's okay.
She has like a fantasy. Michelle still does have this fantasy of like, if he got married somehow, that would just like fix everything and he'd settle down and then I'd have this little sibling. And she's still a kid and she still has a fantasy of what it could mean if her dad were to get remarried.
Right.
But I think because the rest of the movie is it feels so not factual, right? But like an honest view of himself. Like it feels like actually how he thinks. It was nice that I didn't feel like he was like dressing up his relationship with his daughter to make him seem like, I was like, oh, I think this is just actually,
it's actually
how it actually is. He actually does love his daughter. And it's not like, oh, I know that this will be like, make me more sympathetic in the eyes of the audience. Like, I think that's just how he is, because there's so much honesty in the rest of the film that's why I just like that was honest too. Yeah,
I believe it too.
I love the little moment of when they were in the dance room together and he's like taking pills and she's like, what's that? And he's like, my medicine, or what's that? I don't remember what he said, but she's like, can I have some? And he just like ignores her. And it's like that acknowledgement, like she knows obviously like what he's doing, but it's just.
And then she has the really funny thing where she's like, they're talking about his film. She's like, I didn't get the scene where it was two women laying in bed kissing each other. Yes. And then he's like awkwardly starting to try to explain that lesbians exist. And then she's like, I think the lesbian love scenes are excessive personally. And she totally gets him of like that he thought that she like didn't understand it. She was like, oh, I got it. I thought it was excessive though. It's like very funny.
It's like at the end of the day, I'm still your daughter. So
yeah. And then she was like, I just didn't think you were saying anything with that scene. Like it was so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really liked her a lot.
Yeah, I thought that, and she like was like a good dancer for, I don't know, she seemed like she's probably like 13, 14.
Yeah.
She was good.
And honestly,
Hey,
for a
Audrey.
film
Oh, yeah.
in the 70s to not sexualize a 13-year-old, pretty impressive. More than I was expecting out of it. So
Yeah,
good
for
on
sure.
you.
Yeah.
I would have expected it to be like, it's like she's getting interested in boys and he's nervous about how womanly she is. Or what, like that's like the thing you always expect. But they just like let her be a kid and it was great.
Yeah.
Everything I thought this movie was going to do, it didn't do. And everything I was like, there's no way they will do this. They fully did it. So that's a review of the film.
Audrey. So, yes, there was that whole scene where she was like practicing her dance while they were having a conversation, and it just shows like how frustrated she is of him. Like,
yeah,
it's always repetitive. It's nothing, almost like nothing has changed, because at the end she's like, he makes me crazy or whatever.
Yeah. But I think the really important thing about the scene, even though she acts very superior in this scene and she is pointing out all of his flaws and she like gets him on this whole, like, you don't even remember the names of the women you've had affairs with thing. At the beginning of the scene, we see her like getting frustrated and she's going to quit. And then she sees him coming in and then she goes back into it. And so there is, we know that there's still this, I need him to be impressed with me underneath all of that. I'm so superior. Yeah.
My favorite scene of her,
I thought that was a really good, I was like, that told me so much of the relationship. With nothing.
Because at first we were confused, like where
she like hurt her knee. She like kind of landed funny on like her ankle or something like that. So she was like, ow, ow, ow. And then she heard the door open and like snapped into... we were confused at first because we were like, Adam thought that like, they're still married. I thought they were still married.
If it was an ex-wife situation. And then she appeared and we were like, she's supposed to be Gwen. But what my favorite scene of hers actually was when they were already in the hospital and they had to tell the actors that they were either going to get laid off or like the show was going to get on hold. And she fully is like, I just saw him at the hospital and he couldn't stop cracking jokes. He started drinking. Like everyone is having such a great time and he's so ready to come back and I was like, whoa.
But it's juxtaposed with shots of him on a ventilator in the hospital and her crying.
Yes.
With her. And then this news of being like, oh my God, he's doing so good.
Great.
Blah, 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 blah. And I was like,
and like the Steven Schwartz guy is like, yeah, I can sing a song about nurses. And then like they start, it's like, I was like, ooh, I got chills watching it. Like, ooh.
Yeah. But also it is just as much a kind of like a clear-eyed view of entertainment and how incredibly...
It's like, it's the fantasy. You have to sell the fantasy that you're creating something like so powerful and amazing
and
to sell everyone.
It's so all consuming too.
Yes. And that this is worth it. Like all of this is all worth it. So just keep doing it.
I mean, there's that scene where like, sorry to go off Audrey for a second, but there's a scene where the five guys are talking about their options of like, if he dies, like what financially it's going to mean for them.
Yeah.
And it's so greasy and it's like the most kind of 70s polyester flop sweat on the forehead.
Yeah.
Just like,
oh my God, I'm sorry. Oh my God. We forgot about the other celebrity cameo in this scene. It's Wallace Shawn is the accountant with the calculator.
Wallace Shawn is like the accountant.
I know this guy.
There's like, there are many things in this movie that I was like, that's really funny, but they're not jokes. They're just little things where you just notice them and you like laugh at them.
Yeah.
Every time they would say a number, he was like not looking and just like, like adding up on the calculator. And it was so just goofy enough that it was like clearly supposed to be funny. You don't cast Wallace Shawn if you're not trying to do something funny.
Right.
But like, it wasn't a labored like, ha, this is comedy. Like I just was like, there's so much restraint too in this movie that is so huge that like,
they knew just how much humor they could get away with without like breaking the reality of the
tone of the film. Yeah.
I also liked when they were doing the table read and everyone was like laughing and Audrey is just straight faced.
Just watching him.
She's just watching him. And like
Audrey, I think we could say Michelle is probably his relationship with the future and with the next generation. And Audrey, I think, is the most representative of his relationship to show business and the art of what he does for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Real quick, Wallace Shawn,
marriage is what brings us together today.
Well, for me, it's Clueless. He's the teacher in Clueless.
That's your Princess Bride. Yeah.
I mean, mine isn't actually Princess Bride. It's the 2003 Haunted Mansion movie starring Eddie Murphy. I'm sorry. I just think I think she turns in probably my favorite performance in this movie.
Which at first I wasn't sure. I was like, do I like this performance or not?
Because
Because
it's
it
her
really
last movie.
Really?
Yeah.
It is presentational.
She just retired.
Like the my condolences. She is presentational in those parts, right? Where she's like where she is performing.
Yeah.
But like there is something about like it's very 70s performance of like, I'm just earnestly trying to say these, like what I'm trying to get to you. Don't you get it, Joe? Like almost kind of after schooly. Yeah. And I was like, well, she's doing a good job of it. Like
But see, again, I feel like because she was like kind of representative of his relationship to show business, it kind of worked for me that she was doing a more presentational thing.
Yes. Yeah. Unlike Katie, who is more just sad. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think Katie is the representative of his relationship to love and intimacy.
Well, yeah.
Because it's his current woman he's supposed to be in love with or treating well. Yeah.
God, her eyes are huge.
Both of them, both Anne Reinking and Leland Palmer. They just like, there's a shot of Leland Palmer at the beginning of the movie where they're sitting in the back of the house while the audition's happening, and he comes over and talks to them, and she looks up at him, and it's just like thick mascara, like the thickest, clumpiest mascara. It's so 70s, but like huge curled hair, but like the biggest eyes I've ever seen on screen. I was like, oh my God.
And I mean, I've only seen Anne, obviously, and Annie. So it was kind of crazy seeing her with just like straight 70s hair and like her just giant eyes.
Yeah. Katie. Boy, oh boy.
Katie is the saddest character for sure.
Yeah.
In terms of being sort of jerked around by him and believing that if she just kind of sticks it out for long enough, eventually he'll just want to be with her. Yeah.
She has that moment in the hospital where he like knows that she slept behind his back, and it's a tight close up of her face. As she's like, so you're gonna, is it over? And it's so quiet, and her mouth, it barely moves, and her eyes are brimming with tears. And I was like, you are destroying this girl's life.
Yeah.
And you don't even care. It's crazy. But he made the movie about it, so he probably does know he destroyed someone's life. Like, and the fact that he was sleeping with Anne Reinking at the time of making this, like the whole thing is so bonkers.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I don't get it. I don't know why women go. I get it that he's brilliant and you want to be close to that, but it's never worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's interesting that Audrey is the only one who is kind of in the world of the creation of the musical. Everybody else is a man. And so it does feel to some extent that the women, that it's actually a problem of like, I can't even get in the door of being that close unless I can't work with him in a capacity where we can like, come up with things and have ideas and The only way I can like get that close to him is by like sleeping with him.
That's interesting. Yeah. I guess I didn't think about the like Audrey is the one that has gotten the closest to him in a way of like, I can see.
She can sit on the other side of the table.
Yes. And
audition. And
she can like call him out on things and like see what he's thinking or like how it works.
Katie has no power in the relationship. Audrey still has a lot of power and say so, and Katie doesn't have any.
Which is interesting because it's not even like using Michelle as a tool. Like it is her, like Audrey as a performer, and like almost is seen like as an equal, like almost that he could like he actually like, oh yeah, you're an actually talented person. Like,
well. And it's weird because Katie is also in show business because we see her later
on a tour
trying to call the hospital, and she can't get through because she's only a girlfriend.
Right.
But she's like, she's not in his world. She's like in her own separate universe.
Right.
Yeah.
Away from him because he won't let her in that close. He won't let there be another Audrey really at the end of the day. And it's like, Audrey, every time they cut to Audrey's like, you should have been faithful. It was always about being faithful. He needed to be faithful. And that's what she keeps coming up to him about. And he still can't even do that. I mean, he ends up sleeping with, what's her name? Victoria. And that whole scene is crazy because he's like, listen, you're not that great of a dancer. He actually says he doesn't know if he can make her great or good, but he can make her better if she just tries, which is like, so she's bad. And
then yelling at her in this rehearsal, going up to her and like telling her that like, that's part of it. If you stay, I'm probably going to keep yelling at you. And then going back, she finally gets his approval or whatever. And everyone applauds.
Yeah.
That I was like, no,
I know. I mean, this
is how bad behavior continues.
But like genuinely, and I don't know, I experienced so many directors because I started like doing theater when I was so young that so many directors thought this was like how you direct is just like, yell at people. And I understand that art is very passionate and people care a lot about the art they create. But like, I don't know why this is the thing. I even think it's still to some extent probably really common. I wouldn't know. I'm not in theater anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there is a toxicity that you only know if you've been in theater.
Yeah.
And I do think that this movie does highlight that toxicity and doesn't shy away from it, obviously.
Right.
And I think there is a level that I thought it was very interesting that he includes the line where he gets called a faggot and like, he's kind of feminine. Because I think for a lot of straight men in theater, there is the extra level of like, well, I have to really prove my masculinity because people automatically assume that I'm gay. And I think there is a genuine toxicity there. I don't think that's really the whole point of the movie, but I think it's pointed that it is called out. Because
so you think that it's him talking about the external fear of that and not an internal question that he has for himself?
I think he knows that he's not gay, but I think it felt to me more like this is what we have to do. I think probably, I mean, just being gay in theater, I was constantly like, oh, you're gay. So I can only assume that straight guys, it's to some extent probably worse because you would just start to be like, but I'm not, stop. I mean,
we've had to categorize theater straights that it's, you know, like, it's like, yeah.
Yeah. I think, I want to listen to one of the songs in the blah blah blah. Let's do Some of These Days.
And if you leave her, you know you're gonna grieve her. You're gonna miss your sweet little loving baby daughter Michelle. Some of these days, don't die, Daddy, don't die, please. Some of these days, you can't leave this poor little kid without a father. Some of these days, she needs you, Joe. She needs you. Some of these days.
Oh, no. You don't have any lines here.
Okay, let's talk about the finale. Let's talk about the death. This is cinema. Like genuinely, I was so gagged at how crazy it was, how it was like it was a performance. He says the whole movie over and over and over when he takes his pills and starts his morning. It's showtime, folks.
Oh, showtime, folks.
And so to have it be an ending performance, a swan song.
Yeah.
I was like,
you got a finale.
It's brilliant.
Molly got a finale.
I got my finale, y'all. Totally.
She got a finale number.
Yeah. The dancers are in these like circulatory system unitards that are brilliant. I mean, because it's like that it's exposing that it's like this internal medical thing that is causing I feel like there's like a resentment of like, how could like my veins let me down in this way, basically. And that it's so like base and body based, right? But then also like his whole career is based on bodies and dancing. And so
It's like poetic justice.
it's poetic. Yeah.
When the band came up, Molly, I was scared for you because I was like, are those mannequins? Because they were just wearing masks.
Hilarious.
But their bodies were like not moving. So I was like, are they just raising mannequins as like people playing the drums?
I did not have that fear. Thank goodness. I did not have the thought.
Did you like the heads, the gold heads where the eyes were lights?
They're like lights.
No. Like stylistically, it's not my cup of tea. The other thing though that's brilliant is that so this MC guy, they keep watching in the hospital these like pledge drive
Variety.
things.
Yes. Yeah,
and they're making fun of how he introduces every guest in the same way of like a wonderful entertainer, a great humanitarian, my closest friend for 25 years. So I felt like also that character acted in this way of like hating the insincerity of show business, which we see with Audrey, like pretending, oh, he's like cracking jokes and he's having a good time in the hospital and he's on a ventilator. And that is something that like, that's not the main reason, but like one of the reasons that I ended up not wanting to continue doing theater is like, I do find the insincerity of people in show business really grating. I've been in too many rooms where people are like, I just feel like you're all like family to me. And I'm like, I've known you for 2 full weeks and I have an actual family. Like I like you fine, but like, we don't need to be saying all this stuff about each other. Yes. But yeah, we're coworkers ultimately. Yeah. I thought it was really brilliant to have it being facilitated by this figure of like, the insincerity of show business.
Well, I think it makes so much sense. That's why I was like, it's almost a cameo performance because Ben Vereen originated the player in Pippin, and the player in Pippin is such a
I'm leading a story, but there's a
pulling the strings and like everything like a facade, and there's like this sinister darkness to him that's not really apparent here, but I do think it's still living in that same kind of world of like there's a sheen of entertainment that's like plasticky. Yeah. And I think Ben is so good at like kind of getting that, and especially what Fosse thinks is interesting about that. And I think Fosse continuously comes back to that concept. Like every Pippin, Chicago, Cabaret, like constantly is like, there is a sickness about the people who do entertainment. It's like people are mentally deranged if they do this. And he's not wrong. I think there's the line in the film when he's like, I wonder if Stanley Kubrick's depressed. Yeah. And I like, that's such a great fucking line. Yeah.
It's showtime, folks.
It's showtime, folks. Yeah. This finale is crazy.
Because also like him performing, like Joe singing the song is like, it's like celebratory. He's like excited to sing it. Like he's relieved.
It's also his only performance, which I also think is interesting.
Yeah. But I somehow, even watching this, a little part
like, he's not going to kill himself.
Is he really going to die now? Like,
is she going to die from there? Is she going to jump from there?
I still was like, maybe he's like accepting his death, but then it's like, but then they, they shock him back to life and he's got one more chance or something. And then it's like, now he's learned his lesson. So when we cut to his actual corpse on a table, getting zipped up into the bag, and then we get hit with, there's like, show. I mean, I was gooped and gagged. I could not. It was the most brilliant movie ending I maybe ever seen. I
know. I mean, it's really the thesis statement at the end of the film is like, my job is going to kill me.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he dies 7 years later in the arms of Gwen Verdon.
Yes, he has a heart attack in Gwen's arms. Doing a Sweet Charity revival, directed Sweet Charity.
I mean,
like,
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Self-prophecy.
When we got to it, I had just been like, by the time we got to the finale, I was so like, I don't know. I will believe anything that happens in this film at this point. That when we got to the body bag, I was like, sure.
Yeah. That's the only way. She did it. She jumped from there.
My moment that you had where I was like, I cannot believe this is happening.
Yeah.
Is how we go into the OR. And then they cut to the clapper, the clapper, and it's Columbia Pictures. And we pull out and we're in the soundstage. Yeah. And they're directing
the hospital scene. Yeah, like the operating scene.
I was like,
And he's
this is beyond what I thought this
he's
movie was
talking
gonna
to
be.
himself. He's like, no, you don't have a line here. Make sure you say this or whatever.
Yeah.
Blah, blah.
Yeah.
He said, because he's supposed to say, I don't want to die. And he's like, cut the line because we can't even hear. I mean, it's
Chilling.
It's such
so
cruel
scary. It
self-criticism.
reminds me, actually,
Yes,
as I think about it, it really does remind me a lot of Pippin. The ending of Pippin is so like, it's so defeatist almost. Like you're nobody wins.
No, yes, because it's like, you have to do this. This is the show. That's why all these people are here.
And then
Pippin really tricks you into thinking it's
next.
going to be a lot more of a fun time than it ends up being.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
it's psychotic. Yeah. I can't believe I did that show in high school.
Yeah.
Just playing the obvious, like, yeah, Pippin. Yeah. What's wrong with you? And not being like, oh no, this is
sinister.
Yeah.
Sinister vibes.
Do they do in high school? Do they just like cut the final scene, like the way that some high schools just do the first act of Into the Woods, and it's like, yeah, the simple morals. That is what it's about.
No, we did the whole thing. The only thing we really changed is like the sex number was just like Pippin chasing girls around the station.
Sure, yeah.
So fine. But yeah, I mean, I think as we wrap up, I think this is a movie that gave me a lot of insight into Bob Fosse and what he thinks and what he finds interesting. And we really don't, as much as we talk about auteur directors, there are not a ton that feel this
musical too.
Like, they're not a ton that feel this personal and intimate.
Yeah.
So it does stand alone kind of in its own regard of like, wow, he really bared it all. Literally, there was an open heart surgery on the screen.
But did you ever feel
made me very uncomfortable?
Did you ever feel though that like he ever, like, it was never really a judgment about like, was his art good or bad? Like he never even got to see past it. Like do you know what I mean? Like, it's not like he never like I
connected as a person with anxiety about it being about his fixations about other people's thoughts about him and not really about whether the art was good or bad. Like the art can never be good enough to make up for what other people think about the art.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's why it's so fascinating that the last thing that happens before he goes is that critic review, which I thought was also interesting.
I think it was a real person. That's a person that was reviewing.
No, it's not. So Lenny, when it came out, Roger Ebert gave it a bad review. And the reason I think it's based on Roger Ebert's review is because she does the bit where she was like, out of our 4 balloons rating system, I give it half a balloon. And Ebert and Siskel and Ebert had come up with the 2 thumbs, like the 2 thumbs up thing was like a huge
I think there was
concept
also,
at the time.
Yeah. I also feel like there was like a Freudian thing about her like deflating the balloon. And it being I mean, erection. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's
that
masculinity from it.
That scene in the
beginning. The scene of the burlesque. Yeah.
So we learned that all of Bob Fosse's problems had to do with his penis. And that was it. That's all it was.
And they all started because of women.
Yeah. It's all women's fault.
Women took it.
Sorry.
Oops. Oopsie. Did I do that?
That was a direct,
I'm sure.
direct quote of all women. Oopsie.
Yeah.
That was the reaction of all women to this film.
Oops.
Oops.
But like still having like Gwen, Audrey, is it Audrey? Mm-hmm. Having like her be her muse kind of still. Like even they're still collaborating, they're working together even after they got divorced.
Yeah.
He's doing the show. She's the titular role of whatever this musical is that has a number where they sing about having sex on a plane or whatever. I think the line where
a lot of people on a plane.
Right. A big orgy on a plane.
Big old orgy.
I think the sorry, Rita. I think the thing about the line when they read the libretto at the table read, and she's like, you need a car to get anywhere in Los Angeles. And then she says, like, I had to buy a Mercedes just to go to the kitchen. That's really funny.
I was just watching, and just like that, the Sex and the City follow-up. And Sarah Ramirez's character is a stand-up and has a joke in their set that's like, everyone goes everywhere in a car in LA. I had to get an Uber to the bathroom. And I was like, oh my God, not Sarah Ramirez, whoever wrote the show stole this joke. Che stole this joke from Bob Fosse's movie.
Michael Patrick, something? John Michael Patrick?
Michael Patrick King, I think is the guy who writes
something like that.
Yeah.
John Michael Caine?
I did a whole, I watched all of Sex and the City, and now I'm in and just like that. But anyway, I was like, yeah, what a classic joke format that it remains part of the zeitgeist to this day.
Yeah.
Of like LA
jokes.
LA jokes.
But also like, of
LA
course,
is a joke.
the New York making fun of LA.
Well, yeah, specifically like, yeah, Che moved from New York. And so,
Because isn't the show like New York to LA or something like that?
and just
It's
like that.
NYLA.
No, the
musical.
the
yeah.
musical.
and
The musical is,
yeah.
Yes.
So that's the plane to LA is where the
Yeah.
orgy happens.
Let me tell you, as a new San Diegan, LA jokes are always going to hit for me. I want fewer New York jokes and I want more LA jokes.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, hopefully LA can be another city just
Soon.
like New York is.
Oh, that's right.
Because New York's the only city.
Yeah, New York's the only city, unfortunately. So,
Yeah. You know what? This movie is not a New York movie. It is a film that is based in New York, but it doesn't feel like it's like inherent to being a New Yorker.
Yeah.
and that we can praise Fosse for sure.
Thank God. Thank you, Fosse.
Thank God, Fosse.
See, it can be done.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Bye-bye love, bye-bye sweet caress. Hello emptiness, I feel like I could die. Bye-bye my life goodbye. Bye-bye your life goodbye. Bye-bye your life goodbye. I'm through with romance, I'm through with love. Oh yeah, I'm through with counting the stars above. Forget the stars, and here's the reason that he's so free. Here's a loving baby. She's through with me.
On Rotten Tomatoes, this has an 87% certified fresh. Not surprising since this was nominated for 9 Academy Awards. I have the New York Times review here. All That Jazz is much less an 8.5, the Fellini film, than it is the most forthrightly candid variation that ever worked out on Peter Pan and all other middle-aged boys who have refused to grow up. The film, which opens today at the cinema, is an uproarious display of brilliance, nerve, dance, maudlin confessions, inside jokes, and especially ego. It's a little bit as if Mr. Fosse had invited us to attend his funeral, the wildest show business send-off a fellow ever designed for himself, and then appeared at the door to sell tickets and count the house. After all, funerals are only wasted on the dead. All That Jazz is an essentially funny movie that seeks to operate on too many levels at the same time, but Mr. Fosse, like Barnum and Bailey, believes in giving the customers their money's worth. Some of it makes you wince, but a lot of it is great fun. There are big, beautiful, steamy, typically Fosse production numbers, small, intimate dance routines, shots of open heart surgery that may send you under your seat, soul-searching gags, fantasies, flashbacks, and finally, emerging from the machine-made fog, the figure of a man who isn't always likable, but who deserves the attention he affords himself. Not even Fellini, Ingmar Bergman, or Woody Allen, all of whom are similarly guilt-ridden, has ever celebrated himself quite so cruelly. However, it's the excesses that made All That Jazz as appealing as it is, in much the way that Joe Gideon's incredible self-absorption fascinates the people around him. They see it as what they have to put up with to associate with the charm and talent that go with it. We take the flamboyance of All That Jazz not as an artist's indiscretion, but as the fundamental nature of the enterprise. The whole review is really good.
Yeah.
By the way, like
So well written.
It's so well written.
I mean, I will say the whole thing about like he did basically invite us to his funeral. Well, we've given him a lot of credit for being very self-critical. It's incredibly self-centered to like make a movie about yourself. Like, it's a total ego trip. Yeah.
It's diabolical, really. Yeah. It's insane. Like, please talk to a therapist. Get out of my face with this. But also,
he did, and the therapist told him it was all about his penis, and because that's all that they had at the time. Yeah.
This is from the Washington Post. This is more of a negative review. Gideon is portrayed as a notorious womanizer and capable of being comforted by the largely adoring women who surround him. How seriously should we take his self-doubting remarks about, quote, not being good enough? Why does he find it so much easier to derive inspiration from a death wish than the emerging beauty and nimbleness of his little girl? It's difficult to escape the conclusion that Gideon's form of showbiz egotism, presented as a gallant response to a high-pressure existence, is not only self-deceiving and hateful, but also artistically crippling. All That Jazz might have been called Bob Fosse's Heart of Darkness. Gideon's stripper trauma, which may or may not explain the curious streak of misogyny in this movie, surfaces again when poor Joe is in the hospital. What finally sends the old ticker into distress is the sight of a TV reviewer, played by New York TV reviewer Chris Chase, mercilessly panning his new movie. She is the only one who hasn't raved. Is Fosse really telling us that he'd find it unbearable to be panned by, say, Rona Barrett? Some heroic resilience. Were Fosse's feelings hurt by the failure of a movie critic like Pauline Kael to rave about Lenny, or the failure of a dance critic like Arlene Kroos to rave about Chicago? Their opinions would matter. Listen, I probably shouldn't include that last part because I don't know who any of those people are.
No,
but
either.
if you were alive in the 70s, I bet that slapped.
Yeah, they're like, damn.
Wow. Yeah, that's the reaction we should have had. I just thought that was interesting. Of all the ones I read, that's the only one that called it misogyny.
Mm.
And I was interested that they called it out in such a specific way.
Yeah.
So yes, the reviewer was an official reviewer. You were right.
Yeah.
Chris Chase. Great. But what do the people have to say, Molly? Well, here on letterboxd.com.
Oh, I got very nervous when you said my name. Like I was supposed to collect the letterboxes.
Well, Molly, did you do your job? Brendan O'Hare gave it 4.5 stars and says, I'm not really sure Horny Airplane the musical was worth dying over. Number one Gizmo fan also gave it 4.5 stars and said, why the hell isn't this movie called All That Sad? And Benjamin, a thinker. Benjamin Rosser gave it 4 stars and said, no locker room or military barracks can compete with the toxic masculinity of straight men in musical theater.
Period.
This is a fun joke and also absolutely not a joke.
Yeah.
That's what the full review says. So that's something. All right. Let's go into our MVPs. Molly, because you summarized it so eloquently today in under a minute, I'm going to let you go first.
Anne Reinking is my MVP. She's so good at dancing that she is in double of the final scene. She is both one of the dancers in the circulatory system suits, and then she also has to be there as herself as a character as well. Mm-hmm. And I think that slays, and good for you for auditioning for the part of you and getting it.
Of you.
There was another thing in the end too, that there would be cuts to that crowd, that audience watching the performance, and everybody was like engaged, but there would be a couple people who would just be sitting there still.
Yes.
And I think also he does that in a couple, I think, didn't that happen in Cabaret too?
Where it's
maybe,
like, they're not into it. They're not. Yeah.
I don't even know if it's supposed to be like they're not into it, but it's more just like the stillness juxtaposed with the like energy and excitement versus like complete disengagement is like, also, I think it's just like unsettling. Like it's like you're not doing what everyone else is supposed to be doing. You're acting outside of the norm. I mean, obviously, he's definitely inspired by Brecht. There's like a Brechtian influence over the whole thing, right? You're supposed to be aware of everything that's going on. And
like that's the part of like performing and entertaining that he like really finds fascinating to like like taking out of a lens. You're watching this little kid tap dance in a burlesque show, like this looks crazy, you know, but if you're not in it, but if you're in it, you're like, wow, this is amazing. But just there will always be people that are not in it, in that watching what performance you're putting on.
It had to be so fun to make movies in the 70s because there had been such rigidity for the past like 40 years of movie making that like any decision outside of the norm would feel like so exciting, even if it's not. I'm not saying this movie's bad, but I am saying like it would just be like so thrilling to watch movies in the 70s because every movie you'd see be like, I've never seen anything like this in my life.
Saying, like, when people saw Jaws for the first time, they were gooped.
Like gooped, bitch.
It was probably fun to watch them. I don't know if it was fun to make them since there were no safety rules. Everyone was yelling. Everyone's basically harassing you all the time.
People are kneeling on people's chests.
Everyone is smoking around. You know, like
there's so much smoke.
So much smoke.
I could smell
the
film.
The thing where they're doing the like rehearsal dancing and the guy just has to like run on and be like smoke.
Yeah. Oh, that's so again, like that's so stupid. That's so funny.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go next. I'm gonna pick Bob Fosse.
Okay.
I don't think you make this movie without him. I mean, for multiple reasons, but this is a. It feels like when we think, and it probably because his life was cut short,
right?
This is probably why, but it seems like he should be in the canon of great filmmakers of all time. Like I just think like a real artist.
I know, but it's not like you don't think that way because he's already is the person that created like dance basically.
He created a literal genre of dance.
Yeah. It is crazy. It's very Tick Tick Boom. Also, everyone needs to be very concerned if Lin-Manuel Miranda ever makes a musical where he's contemplating his own death. I guess Hamilton does a little bit, doesn't it? But if it's semi-autobiographical and he's talking about feeling like running out of time or his own death or whatever, we need to get that man to a doctor.
Yeah.
Because
he already bought a damn castle in the UK. Like, what else does he want?
That's true. He's lived more life than we're all going to live.
He's lived a full life.
He's lived a full life.
Take him out.
He's getting checks for We Don't Talk About Bruno, constantly. Yeah. So I think he's okay. I'll pick Leland Palmer, who played Audrey. There was just something so compelling about her trying to act above Joe's influence on her and her life and her art, but then still having to like play into the shtick, which I think is truly like you've already said that like that's what Fosse's kind of interested in is like, look how fucked the entertainment industry is, and yet we're all bound to it because this is what we do. We can't say no to it. The thrill of it.
This movie made me really want to watch Fosse Verdon. Even more than I already did.
Yeah. Just to see what that clip is of Michelle going wiping her tears away so dramatically.
Who plays Fosse in that?
Three billboards.
3 billboards, right?
Yeah.
Sam Jackson. Is that his name?
Sam Rockwell.
Sam Rockwell. Yes. Molly, do you have a closer this week?
I do, and I wrote it in the document that I thought was for this episode. What Broadway tune do you want to play over your corpse?
Oh, great. Perfect.
Oh, let's think about this. Oh my God, you guys from Legally Blonde the musical.
Okay, yeah. What's your take on that?
Oh my God, you guys.
Oh my God.
You know that people should laugh, even in times of tragedy. It's okay to laugh. As I stare at this fucking fly on
this fucking fly
computer. No, I think I would actually pick like. I probably would pick Children Will Listen. I am that F slur, that the actor who played Lenny. I just that song just gets to me every time. So
I think.
Oh, we met Lilla Crawford, by the way. We hung out with Lilla Crawford like all weekend long when we were at KCON. She played Little Red. She played Little Red
Riding Hood. Into the Woods, the film.
And she was Annie. She was in the Annie revival
in 2014.
Wow.
So,
and she's a K-pop person now. She's a fan.
She got
a fan of our channel.
She's a fan of the Ampliverse. So. Lilla, if you ever want to talk musicals, if you get,
oh my gosh, yeah.
Come on in.
Come on in, honey.
Come on in.
The water's warm.
Would yours be Annie?
The pick? No. Well, I was gonna say the pick to do. There's no business like show business. Is like so on the nose, but there's literally no other song that you could pick.
Yeah.
And also, there's no business like show business is a song you could never make today without. There's no hint of irony in that song.
Yeah.
Right.
It is not a send up of the entertainment industry. It is not. It is just a celebration of the entertainment industry without any reflection on its flaws or anything. Like it's like so earnest that it.
Wait,
it
but
makes
isn't it from Gypsy?
Yeah, wasn't she singing it about?
Am I wrong?
No, I thought it's from. Isn't it from?
Is it Mame?
No.
Gypsy.
No.
There's no biz like show business, I know. Oh, it's a Berlin. It's called There's No Business.
Annie Get Your Gun.
Oh.
Annie Get Your Gun. Okay, I was thinking it was in Gypsy, and so then it was like the song is not ironic, but it's being sung by a character who we don't admire. But I was wrong. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, you're just thinking because it was Ethel.
Oh, yeah, Annie Get.
Yeah, because Ethel, that's why I was thinking that. Okay.
So it's like a perfect song to choose in that regard too. It's just like so earnest in its origin that it like turning it in this way is so perfect. I would choose for me in a scene that's the exact same. It's a shot of my body being stuffed into a body bag. I would do gray skies are gonna clear up, put on a happy face, brush off the clouds and cheer up, put on a happy face, take off the gloomy mask of tragedy, it's not your style. You make me glad you decided to smile. That'd be mine.
I'm going to do When You're Good to Mama from the musical Chicago.
Oh, yes.
I want everyone to respect my ghost. I want to go out on a note of, you better do stuff for me when I'm dead.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to remember.
Alms.
Yeah.
What was that?
That's the... When I'm singing. It's
okay,
the like
the
horns.
first thing you sang was not that.
That's Chicago.
Yeah, it's the horns.
I don't know what RJ's doing. I don't know what's happening right now.
When you're good to mama, mama's good to you.
Great. Well, till next time.
He's gonna die. He's gonna die, or whatever the song is called.
Bye
It's called Bye Bye Life.
Bye bye happiness.
Thank you for listening to the best revival of a podcast, Showgays. You can find us on social media. Adam is at Adam Noecker on Twitter. RJ is at RJ Food Rocks on Instagram. And Molly is at Molly Matiny on Instagram. This episode was edited and mixed by Adam Noecker. This has been an Ampliverse production. You can find our show page and more information at theampliverse.com. If you'd like to send us your own takes on the movie we just watched, reach out to us via email and we might read it aloud on the show. Our email is showgaysmoviemusical@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you find your podcasts. And as always, rate, review, and subscribe to help others find the show. And now, as always, the show must go on, so stick around to hear what we're going to be watching next episode.
This school is full of rebels. You! What is your name?
Matilda. Matilda Wormwood.
Matilda Wormwood. Criminals like you need a real lesson.
See if that child is still alive.